is how I came to know Jesus and what that means to me. And I think before I start, I really want to take some time to explain the point of testimony, like as I see it. And I think when we're talking about God, we're talking about something that's absolutely huge. We're talking about the infinite being who sustains all life. And the only real way we can talk about something that's huge as that faithfully and express it faithfully is through talking about how we've experienced God and how God's interacted and moved with us. And I think that's the only way we can really get across the point that we're trying to make. So yeah, basically, we'll get started from the beginning, I guess. I've only been a Christian a few months, maybe 6 months, but I'm going to get like a couple of years to how I was before I'd ever met any sort of Christians. I was the kind of person that justified themselves and defined themselves by the grade they got at school. My self-esteem came from self, and that's what I get most of my pleasure from. But underneath all that, and before I say this, I want to really stress that whilst writing this, I've been trying to stay as honest and true as possible, so not to communicate anything false. And I actually hated myself. I loathed myself. I'm not even exaggerating. Sometimes I'd look in the mirror and I just hate myself so much I'd hit myself and that sort of stuff. And it's not good. Yeah, basically this went on for a while, like a good faith, respectable student for a while. But underneath this whole mess of stuff, just tearing me up inside. Then I met this guy called James Horton. Immediately I could see something a bit different about him. I had no idea he was a Christian. But just without even trying, we became really good friends. And yeah, our friendship just grew for a while, and yeah, and this one evening he said, "I'm a Christian, would you want to come to my church with me?" And I was like, alright, I guess. I'll, bless him, for my Christians, I guess I'll, give him, sure, why not. So I came along, and the songs I heard there, like, it wasn't the words, but I don't know what it was, but just something really shook me up. I've got to say, I just felt really shaken inside, and I did everything I possibly could just to ignore that. I was just like, oh, well, obviously the songs are designed to invoke a specific emotion in me. That, obviously is their ploy. The evil, congregation is going to trap me in and control my thoughts. So, yeah, and that's what I thought. Well, that's what I told myself. And process of about 4 years of me just justifying that opinion with completely false logic, basically. And then I went to this huge Christian festival with thousands of Christians there, loads of really good music and really good Christians. But it wasn't there that I became a Christian. It was about 6 months later. I was sitting at home in my room, reading a book, and suddenly I just got sick of constantly fighting to ignore what was standing right in front of me, basically. And I just gave in, and I just said, thank you, Jesus, that I just give in. I just acknowledge you, and I just ask you to come into my life, basically. And I just basically said, I'm sorry for being such a fool and ignoring you all this time when you're basically standing right in front of me. And I think the first thing that I noticed, the first thing that was revealed to me, I think, is what was so wrong about my love of knowledge and the way that I define myself by that. In that knowledge can bring hugely amazing things. You look at the way how far we've come even just 100 years with the technology we have, the medical treatments we have, which are all amazing things. But I think the main thing that was revealed to me is ultimately, without God, all of it's just kind of meaningless. It doesn't actually mean anything. I mean, you can go to the moon, and it would be a really cool thing to do, but if there's no God, it doesn't really mean anything. You can, I don't know, yeah, like say a huge rock show or something, but without God it doesn't really mean anything. You can enjoy something, but without God it doesn't really mean anything. And I think, yeah, and I think the main thing that I'm trying to say here is that the thing that does mean something is God and the love of God. And it just basically comes down to that wherever you go, whatever you do, you're never going to find anything as pure as God or as loving as God. So, I don't know, I just say, like, is anyone there here in the position that I was 4 years ago when I came to church for the first time? Don't just ignore the questions, ask the questions. It's good to ask questions, don't accept anything blindly, but ask the questions because they're just too important to ignore. Yeah, and that's basically my testimony.